Hello, everybody, and welcome to what we're officially going to now call the inaugural episode of our new series that we are calling 6 Degrees of Association. Lucas and I came to you about 2 weeks ago to talk a bit about what Advanza wants to talk about in the market and all the exciting people we couldn't hope to speak to. And we are excited to kick off this series with none other than Deedre Daniel, who is a fellow advisory board member to me, to Advanza, but also a super interesting person that I'd love to have now explain to us exactly how interesting she really is. Deedre, would you introduce yourself, please, and tell us a little bit about your very interesting company?
That's a lot of pressure, Erin. I feel like I need to be juggling flames and on a unicycle or something.
But you're set up there. You've got
thanks.
the
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah. So I started this business about 2 years ago, and the mission is to help people think creatively, laugh, and build stronger bonds with others. And it's centered around a course I teach called How to Be More Interesting Than a Cell Phone, which is also going to be a book. And check it out. I'm working on my cover.
Look
Maybe
at
this
her.
one better. Yeah.
Good
and it
stuff.
goes, thank you. Thanks. Exciting. So, and it also goes with a game that I invented called The Very Interesting Game. Thanks, Lucas. Fantastic.
Product promo right there.
Yeah, right. And so is that the one with your brand on it? Do you want to show everyone? Yeah. So
They're
the
branded.
sleeves slide
They're
off.
great,
Yeah, it can be, and that's a different shade of purple than the actual original game as
Custom
well.
Advanza purple.
That's right. That's right. So I write new cards every single day, and I just created a Halloween expansion pack. I'll make sure the two of you get a copy of that. And I use those cards to help companies weave information about their business into an activity so that they're not just cramming advertising down the throats of the people that they're interacting with. So it's a new way to interact with other people.
Well, that's awesome.
I'm going to quit talking. So
no, that's I wanted to know about the current thing you're doing, but one of the reasons that I know Lucas has counted on you for years in advising with his business and why I'm so excited to talk to you today. We are talking about member engagement with associations, and don't sell yourself short. You have quite the career, and you spent a lot of time with Geico, which we all know is very, very well known for extraordinary marketing programs and engagements. I mean, who else out there could really make insurance that interesting? Geico. And you were part of the team that made that happen. So I just would love to know, how do you feel of transitioning sort of your skills and talents in such a consumer, a business to consumer model into thinking through things like the card game and associations and engaging in their membership and in their audiences?
Yeah, well, so I was at Geico for almost 20 years, and for the last 11 of those years, I ran the affinity marketing division, and I was on the road every single week or every other week. I amassed more than 1,200 nights at Marriott properties, and I was not brand exclusive. So I was on the road all the time, and I was at these conferences, and I just would notice that people had this inability to connect. It was the same dry conversations over and over again. And you still had some lives of the party, Lucas being one of them, of course. But, so many other people just really struggled with it. And when I was asked to speak for 10 minutes at an ASAE conference, they wanted me to just fill in some empty space. And they said, just make up something, you'll be fine. We just have this awkward 10 minutes. We're not really sure what to do with it. And so I created a little mini class called How to Be the Most Interesting Person at the Cocktail Party. And they said, maybe 10, 20 people will show up. Like we said, it's this weird little section in the day. And the room was packed. People were sitting in the aisles. They were standing around the walls. They followed me out into the hallway asking for more information. And I thought, maybe I'm on to something here. So that started to evolve into the class that we have today. So when I broke out on my own, I thought, I'm going to make a go of it and really dive in deep, created this card game. And now I have other people approaching me to be like a master of engagement for their online courses, as well as their conferences. Yeah, to tie everything together and keep people at their computer, because they're no longer engaging with each other in person. And I don't want to keep using the word engagement over and over again. That can be a
Yeah.
little
Well,
tiring. So maybe we need a sniglet or something.
right. It's what we're
The
talking
episode's
about.
about engagement.
Yeah. The episode is about engagement. And
Yeah.
so Lucas, what's your take on the importance of discussing engagement right now?
Well, it's a lot of topics going on around engagement and how the shift is. I actually want to throw it back to Deedre to talk about how you made the shift with your company going into COVID, because this game is a physical game, which would be really hard to play right now. So if you could just talk a little bit about how you shifted and pivoted.
Oh, yeah. So there I was trying to make it as a professional speaker, going to events, and all of these people were reaching out to me to come speak at their conference a year in advance. I was like, all right, things are really happening. And then, boom, COVID. Every single conference was canceled, or they were shuffling around like, we're really not really sure what we're going to do. Maybe we'll send out a newsletter instead of a conference. Like, this is ridiculous. So I figured out how Zoom worked, and I modified the game for online events, and now I have a game show, so hundreds of people can dial in and watch, and then they can participate in chat while there's other people online, like as an actual active participant in the game. And then you can use the polling function in Zoom so that the audience can vote on the best answer and what have you. And so it allows people to be much more interactive than they would with a game show that you see now. Like if you're watching Jeopardy, you're not interacting with the players, right?
Yeah.
If you're watching
Yeah.
that at home, but
Exactly.
here they're very involved in the game itself. Or I can do this in a smaller setting, and it allows for people to really get to know folks that they've known for years and they had no idea this is how they think. And it really opens up your mind into how people process problems. So for instance, I asked, one of my favorite questions to ask is, what should have been invented by now? And you'll hear people automatically default to something from the Jetsons, or like Star Wars or Star Trek. Yeah. So they always want to say teleportation, or flying cars or what have you. And then I'll say, no, dig a little deeper. And you can always tell who has a lot of housework, because then they'll say, oh, dishes that put away themselves, or laundry that washes and folds itself. And then people start saying, I need temperature controlled underwear. I'm like, okay, now we're now
I feel like I should be writing this down.
Oh, I do. It's just so many ideas. But then they start giggling and they realize there's really no wrong answer, because we're in a world where all of this information's at our fingertips, and you can fact check anyone at any given time. And so I think people are afraid to speak up and talk about what they're thinking, because they don't want to be wrong. And I tell them, you're never wrong in this game. Just don't bring up politics, religion, or the virus, because we're tired of talking about all three of those. They're important. You should talk about them. But right here, right now in the game, we're not going to. Just let your imagination go. And a lot of people have said, wow, I've been so locked down, I haven't just let my imagination go, because they're so, caught up in what's going on in the world right now.
Yeah, I think the brilliance behind the game for me in terms of engagement, and specifically for associations, is like the big three, right? So making it personal. The game is personal. You're talking about personal things. I think that's just huge in terms of increasing engagement. I think the second is you're asking for feedback, right? The polling, you're asking for them to give their opinion. People want to give their opinion, and they like to do it. And then the third is you're asking for an investment, their time, their energy, their thoughts and ideas. Whenever you invest in something, right, it goes back to the idea of like what makes Facebook so sticky, because, well, I've put 500 pictures up there and I put content up there. I can't suddenly just turn that off and walk away from all that investment that I've made. And so people get invested in the people get invested in the conversation, and I think it's great.
Thank you. I also award points for the most interesting answer. And so then they get competitive, like, oh, well, hold on, I need to have a more interesting answer than that person. And then they have penalty flags, which they can throw at other people. And so in the live game, people were throwing them across the table and what have you, but now they just print it up on a piece of paper or put it on their phone, and they just show it into the camera, and they're throwing penalties at people that are crossing the line, because sometimes you wonder, can I say this? I don't know. So all they're going to lose is 10 points.
Now, is there actually a reward that they get if they've got the most points at the end of the game?
Yeah, I give them an autographed copy of the game.
Oh, look at that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So in the new world of virtual events, the new world of virtual content and virtual engagement, I'm assuming you've now kind of gotten probably back on the radar and been working with a couple of associations and organizations. What other things that are you seeing out there on the market that are interesting ways of engaging? And maybe what are some of the bad ones? What are people doing?
Um,
Shouldn't be
yeah,
doing?
I would say your stale Zoom happy hour is not the way to go. And there are a lot of people that have done this in such a poor way that when someone says, hey, let's get together on Zoom, people go, do I have to? Because you're going to have all these people that come in late. And anytime they come in late, imagine this, like you go to a bar or a restaurant, and anytime someone comes in, everyone has to get up and move into a different seat because everyone's face moves around on the
Yes.
screen, and that's annoying. And then you get the person who, their sound doesn't quite work, or they're moving around, so the rest of us are sitting there, and then you have this one person that's, they're going on some sort of Arctic trek, and now we're wondering, like, what's going on in their background. They're constantly moving around, and you wouldn't do that if you were at a party together,
Right.
right? You wouldn't do
Right.
that, but it's just so rude and obnoxious
Right.
on Zoom. And so I think people get a little tired of that. And then you have, one person monopolize the conversation, and then everyone else is sitting
Right.
there watching them. So I would say that's the bad way people are, bonding,
Engaging. Yeah.
using Zoom. Yeah.
Have you seen any
Um,
interesting things that associations are doing in place of their conferences or in addition to the conferences that they're doing online that's helping to engage?
yeah, so it's really critical that people are allowed to give a voice and multiple ways of communicating. So back to, the functionality of Zoom, use chat. There are some people that are very irritated by chat, but you have so many people that, um, are introverts. They don't want to speak up. They're not really sure when they can talk. And we just need to get used to the fact that, yes, there's going to be a chat stream going, and use that to the best of your ability. Why not say to everyone, hey, head over into chat right now and answer this question? We want to hear you, because at
Yeah.
any given moment, those people are going to check a text message, check an email. So you might as well keep their fingers active
Yeah.
and focused on what you're saying, and don't get upset that there's, yes, another conversation going on the side while someone else is talking, because if you're on stage talking, there's still half the room is looking under their
Right.
under the table, right? At
Yep.
their cell phone. So at least they're actually interacting, with
With
you.
you.
So
Right.
yeah, I
And to
would
your point,
embrace
the
that.
introverts gives the introverts an opportunity to go in there and put down their thoughts and plug in really important questions
Right.
that somebody then can jump in and say, hey, we have a great question from somebody in the chat. Let's talk about this.
Right.
Right, because in your typical, conference, they might have a microphone that they pass around. Well, too
Right.
many people are terrified to have a microphone shoved in their face to answer this question. You got a few peacocks out there that, plug their company and ask the question at the same time. But, the other people would love to be able to get their thoughts and ideas out there. And so, yeah, use chat as much as you can.
So, of course, now this comes up the question, and this is something that Lucas and I have been talking about, and I've been seeing in the industry, in the different industries that I work in, is monetizing versus freemium content or free content. It seems as though every conference, at least the ones that I've seen out there, have gone from no fee to attend to webinars all the time to this dive for I need to get content out there to the market. And I like to see it as a little bit of like the tragedy of the commons, right? If you don't have anything invested, then what do? I can admit I have a to watch folder in my inbox that all the webinars I've signed up for, and like, gosh, whoops, I can't make it today. And, I get the video link later and it goes into my to watch folder and I never actually watch it. Right. So I've committed, they think that they're going to get 20 viewers. They end up with 5, where did the 15 go? Curious of whether you think the market has overcorrected for itself. Lucas and Deedre, I pose this question to both of you. And how should companies and associations be thinking about charging for content versus free content?
Mm. Lucas, do you want to take that, or you want me to?
Well, I'm certainly of the mindset that I think there's just an abundance of free content out there, maybe too much. And I understand the irony of what we're doing here in that statement, but there are ways that you can effectively monetize what you're putting out there in content. And within your industry, it should be valuable enough that you should understand that that does have value to it and monetary value, that your members should be paying for that type of thing. So giving away the house and all that, I think everybody's doing some of that, and not always effectively.
It does seem if there's some sort of continuing education credit tied to it, they're going to pay attention,
Sure.
right? Yeah. Oh, Erin, can't hear you.
Oop.
There you
And
go.
there you go. Even the host herself forgets to take her mic off mute. Yeah, I think that you're right. It's like you need a little bit of dog in the fight or a little skin in the game in order to stick around. And for sure, I've seen the learning credits. Of course, as someone like me, I'm not working towards any kind of certification, so I don't necessarily have that benefit. But for sure, what would get me? Don't send me the free link maybe afterwards. Like, don't let me watch it later. I don't
Yeah.
want to encourage that because I'm also trying to create content that people will actually look at. But for sure, there is this feeling, and Pop-Up Magazine, I don't know if you guys have heard of that particular show that used to travel around the country, but it's really interesting concept, and I haven't followed enough to see what they're doing in the virtual world, but it was actually a show that you would go see at local theaters. I think here it was at the Warner Theater, and it was this great, cool, interactive show where it was like, I want to say it was like verbal articles. People would read articles and sort of act them out, or maybe they have music. Anyway, it was really interesting content to watch. It was a show. But the uniqueness of it is that it was not ever showed anywhere else. They did not film it and then make it available online, which did create this like mystique of like, okay, I mean, I'll give up a Tuesday night to go see it because there's literally no other way for me to see this content unless I go show up in person. And I think that there's some magic in that as I at least look at helping clients think through content development in this time. Because Deidre, what you were saying before we came on air, there's just so much out there and all of us are feeling a little inundated. And I think we probably all got the bug too, thinking we got some time on our hands to learn some new things. Of course, then we all realized like, nope, we don't have any time on our hand. In fact, we're busier now than we ever were.
Oh, totally. Fender, the guitar company,
Yep.
they had free lessons online. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to learn how to play bass guitar.
Right.
I'm coming out of this with skills. No,
Exactly.
I signed up, never, ever, ever
Yeah.
got on there. But and I also got a lock picking set. I'm like, I'm going to learn how to pick locks and play guitar. Yeah, yeah. Neither one. I can't do. Yeah, right. I can't do either one. But another point that I was thinking about, back to what you were saying, Erin. Erin, I'm not going to assume how old you are, but I'm in my 40s, and there was a time when you could only watch the TV show when it came out.
Yep.
And everyone stopped what they were doing to watch that show. Everyone watched it at the exact same time across the country. And there was a lot of bonding, right? Because people wanted to know who shot JR. And I was a little kid. This was an adult show, but I was like, ooh, who shot JR? Because that's what all the adults were talking about. That's what everyone was doing.
Right.
And they knew they had to get in and watch it at the exact same time or they were going to miss it. And back to your point, if they know they can watch it at any time, they can, it no longer has the value. And, why should they try to track it down?
Right. I 100% agree with you. I mean, remember MASH nearly like ruined the sewage system of New York City because everyone went to their commercial break, bathroom break at the same time on the final episode of MASH, right?
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know
appointment
that.
TV.
Wow.
I mean, admittedly, like a lot of people talk about Friends. Now, Friends came out on a Thursday night right as I was exiting college. Well, I don't know if anyone remembers their early 20s, but Thursday nights when I was in my early 20s, we were not home at 8 o'clock watching TV. We were usually out at a bar or going out to meet friends. And so I met Friends in real life. I actually did not watch Friends. So I was not part of like this whole frenzy around that show simply because it just was on a night when I wasn't normally around, but everyone else did. And you couldn't catch up with it until just years ago when they finally started making it available, through Netflix or Hulu or wherever it's available. But you're right. Like there is some mystique and magic about withholding things so that someone can be attesting to you. I do find your things valuable. I'm willing to make the time to watch this particular thing or sign up for this particular engagement. And then, and helping organizations understand how do you craft the content to be that compelling in the first place? And then how do you make sure that they're getting the value out of it and you're getting the value out of it? We also don't need to be doing things for free for everybody. Lucas, Deidre, you guys have a lot of, intellectual capital that does not need to be given away for free all the time. So
exactly. And I think, humans will copy what other humans do.
Sure.
And how many restaurants have the same kind of food or movies that have that same feeling to it? So it no longer holds your attention because you know where it's going. You know how the plot's going to end. Like we need to be surprised. That's what makes you stand out.
Right. Those are the best movies. You didn't guess the ending.
Exactly.
That's right. Yeah, well, I didn't see that coming. And
Right.
that's the kind of content we need to put together. So what does that mean? It means more quality, less
Right.
quantity.
Less fluff. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I love it, guys. Thank you so much for helping people think a little bit through what they can be doing in this weird and strange time around engagement. Again, those meaningful conversations, Deedre, I just think what you've done is so fascinating and interesting. And I wish you the best of success. And I hope everyone who's listening to this goes and checks her out. Is there a place we can find you?
Yes, interestingconversations.com.
All right. Perfect.
Go there.
Now, go there, and you can brand the card set yourself. Now we have decided to call this series 6 Degrees of Association. Thank you, Nicholas Tovar. So that means we're at the point in the episode, Deedre, where we need to find out who would you think that's associated with you that our viewers would love to hear from in the future.
Yeah, well, I recently met a woman by the name of Terry Carden. And what I didn't realize is she was in all the same social circles that I was in for over a decade. And we never met until just recently because Ann Neville, I need to give a little shout out to her, created an executive woman sleepover and just called me up out of the blue and said, "Hey, I saw you speak. I thought you might want to come to the sleepover." And I said, "Yeah, okay." She goes, "Don't you want to know who's going to be there? You don't know anything about me. You just said yes." I'm like, "Yeah, sounds weird. Weird enough. I will go." And Terry Carden is one of the people there, and we've been having these, I would say, biweekly Zoom calls, and she is just absolutely brilliant and so connected to so many people in the association space. And I don't want to take up all the reasons why she's amazing, but I definitely think you should
All right, Terry
out to her and also check out her non-Doozapalooza site. Yeah,
Okay.
give that a go.
All right, Lucas, I think challenge accepted, Lucas. We've got to get Terry Carden on the show. So Terry, if you're out there, we want to talk to you. Well, Deedre, thank you so much for joining us today on 6 Degrees of Association. Lucas, thank you for all of your input as well. We hope that this was helpful for those out there, and we will be coming back to you in 2 weeks with a new episode. Check back here. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. All right.